Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Some people were asking me about Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson's, suggestions or what he thinks the Y chromosome is and who they are and everything. So I just wanted to go through that a little bit, if I may. So we'll go here. Let's go to the picture. Yeah, so these are the basic definitions, you know. These are the basic groupings that there are by conventional wisdom, conventional understanding. You have the A, the B, the C, the D, the E, the F. Okay. Of course, there's a little color code here. You get the A, the B. Well, I guess it doesn't follow through very well. Doesn't follow through very well, but down here anyway, we got the A, the B, the C, the D, the E, the F. Okay, so this seems to be one grouping. The other grouping is the group F, because they got to tie the C with the F, of course, so they have to find an identifier that connects C with F. So that's what they did. I got to do a little bit more study on that to see how they did that, but at any rate, you have the F, G, H, I, and J, and of course the K is what ties the I and the J to the K. Then you have the K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. So right here is a little hint, of the way things should be. So you have the A, the B, the C, the D, the E. Seems to be one group, right? It's right here in front of us. Then you have the F, G, H, I, and J is another grouping with a link or connection somehow to the K, so then you have a K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. But the three major groupings are kind of obvious if you think about it, or if you look at it. For face value, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, or E, F, A, B, C, D, and E. Skip the F. The F is a part of this group. F, G, H, I, J, and the K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. But the thing to note here about Dr. Jeanson's suggestion is that he's got this divided up in such a way that's really very strange. For face value, we're talking about face value now. A, B, C, D, E, F is Hamitic. Then he's got the G and the H as being Hamitic. I don't know why he did that, but he does. That means that the I and the J, according to Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson, is all the sons of Japheth, and he's got them under Joktan or somebody way down the line, which is, not very scientific, right? But he's, for whatever reason, he's got the G and the H grouped in with the Hamitic descendants. So he thinks A, B, C, D, and E, F, G, and H are all Hamitic, which is contrary to where people are located, but that aside, he has all. I was trying to say the other day that he's got all of the Semitic people in T. No, he doesn't have all the Semitic people in T. He's got all the Japhethites in I and J, because he's got somehow under Joktan. He thinks Joktan is the descendants of Japheth or something. I don't know. But then you have all these haplogroups here: K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. He says they're all Semitic. Now, how did Shem get that many Semitic descendants? I have no idea why he believes that. But the weird thing is that he believes the 7 sons of Japheth are in I and J. For whatever reason, I don't know what his reasoning is, and I really don't want to know. But he thinks that every descendant of Japheth is under I and J. And of course, I is the Semitic Danite tribes in Europe. J is the Arabic and descendants of Judah descendants, and otherwise Hebrew descendants. So you have all these, all these are what are supposed to be the descendants of Arpachshad. He has as a descendants of Japheth, which are 7 sons as opposed to 5 sons. Now the Semitic group here, which is F, G, H, because F is not just the category, F is a lineage too. You have F1 and F2, as I've pointed out previously. F1, F2, G, H, I, and J is one group. So how many is that? F1 and F2 is 2. G, H is another 2, that's 4. And the IJ, which is significantly, strongly, by all scientific methods, are the descendants of Judah and otherwise descendants of Israel and or descendants of Abraham. So you have the descendants of Abraham, descendants of Jacob, descendants of Judah are all here in I and J. But according to Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson, those are the 7 sons of Japheth, which is really, 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 really out there. But anyway, that aside, these are supposed to be all Semitic, right? And he thinks T is the Judaic, somehow descendants of Judah. I don't know. But maybe it's because he thinks that Shem is the firstborn. I don't know. If Shem is the firstborn, then this is the place of the firstborn. If you inverse the out of Africa, displacement. I mean, the out of Africa. What do you call it? The order of descendancy. We have the A, the B, the C, the D, the E as the root of the tree. This is supposed to be the root of the tree. That's A00. And Neanderthals are supposed to be A000000. I don't know how many zeros they have. Neanderthals are supposed to be connected. They're supposed to be A. Supposed to connect to A. The only problem is that Neanderthals are more similar to Japhethites over here, and or Europeans, Eurasians. Eurasians are this group right here. It's Eurasians, right? We have Eurasians are this group here, which lines up perfectly with the seven sons of Japheth. I don't know how you can put it any other way. R is Gomer, Q is Madai, M and S is connected to K, which is Tubal. L is Tiraz, the Thracians, which is Greek, which is Alexander the Great. And then you have the C Greek people, which are Javan, and all his sons, which are, settlements in the Mediterranean Sea. So the descendants of Javan, T, are the seagoing people that have settlements in the Mediterranean and later became the Phoenicians. And T is also in the Horn of Africa because they had trade with Africa. The Greeks had trade with Africa, and there's still Greek populations in the Horn of Africa to this day. The N went north, that's Meshech. The O is Magog, closely identified with Meshech, but separate. Then you have, of course, the Q is Madai, R is Gomer. Those are seven sons of Japheth, right off the bat. You don't have to like go, I don't know how many generations it is until you get to Joktan to have seven sons of Japheth. Because this is only five sons over here of Shem. Seven sons of Japheth are over here. Now, the curious thing is how Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson got the Eurasians to swap places with the Semitic population, which is the Middle Eastern Semitic population. I mean, conventional wisdom understanding is J1 is Middle Eastern Semitic, especially considering that the Jewish people that have a heritage of the tribes of Israel, and of course they were expelled all over the place, but the remaining people in Israel were the descendants of Judah. So you have these descendants of Judah, the faithful ones, still in Israel. And of course they went all over, they were expelled too. Everybody was kicked out of Israel, basically. They were all kicked out of Israel. Judah was kicked out. All the tribes were kicked out of Israel. But you have a known human history of the Judaic people, Jews, going up the Rhine River. Up the Rhine River, up here somewhere. You have a tradition, or of the Judaic people being merchants. They went up the Rhine River. They also went down the Silk Road. They're not represented here on this map, but it is a fact that the Uyghurs are Judaic as well. So not only do you have the Ashkenazi Jews, Ashkenaz in the land of Ashkenaz, which is R1A in Europe, they identify as being Ashkenaz. I mean, in the land of Ashkenaz, they identify themselves as Ashkenazi. being from the land of Ashkenaz, right? But turns out that they have a larger population of R1A, of course, being in the land of Ashkenaz. They would have a larger population of R1A. Sephardic Jews, on the other hand, have a population of R1B in their population because they're in Southern Europe and North Africa. So that stands to reason that they would have the R1B in their population as a majority. I mean, not the majority, but the second majority, or, I guess it's second majority. I don't know. But anyways, the major population, of course, in both the Sephardic populations and the Ashkenazi Jews is J2, which is, almost entirely strictly Judah, because that's the only thing that was left of Israel was Judah. So this J2 here identifies as Judaic. This J2M172 right here, this in all probability is the descendants of King David and King Solomon, because it's one lineage, it's a large population, it's the house of David. In all probability, that's what it is. So anyway, besides the fact that the Cohen modal haplogroup is J1, the descendants of Aaron, Levi, Moses' brother, is J1. So that's two confirmations. The Cohen modal haplogroup is J1, and the Judaic population, probably the descendants of King David himself, are J2M172. That's one single unit. If you could maybe, it's either Judah or King David, probably King David, because there's other lineages of J2. It's not just M172. So anyway, that's one point. Of course, then you have the lineages. Ham is definitely the youngest. Ham is for sure the youngest. So you can't root the tree in Ham. It's not going to be rooted in Ham. Now, you could possibly root it in Shem as the oldest brother. Some people will argue that Shem is not the oldest brother. Arpachshad was born 2 years after the global flood, but some people say that, the math shows that Japheth is the oldest brother, and Shem is not exactly the oldest brother, but either way, they could probably go either way, because you still have the linkages between the brothers, and or unless if it can only go from Japheth to Shem to Ham, which is the way they have it in this other demonstration or this other picture right here. If it can only go this way or this way, then Japheth would be the older brother. But if anybody wants to contribute on that, do some investigation, that might work. But this is one thing about the suggestion of Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson is that Javan, his suggestion is that the T Y haplogroup, TY chromosome of Javan, he's saying that's the Jewish people, even though it's only 3% of the Jewish population, which is mind blowing. But anyways, but my suggestion is that Israel had a lot to do with the Phoenicians. Okay? You have to follow this now. In the days of King Solomon, when there is peace in the whole world, which basically King Solomon ruled the world at that time, there was peace in the whole earth, basically. There was also peace with the Phoenicians, which are right here. Now, what are the Phoenicians going to consist of? Okay? Look at this. Let's back up to Tiraz. Tiraz is up here. This is Greeks, right? This is the L paternal Y haplogroup. Tiraz, L, right? Danube is up here. This is the later. The Danites went up that way. But for the time being, the Danites were still part of Israel. In the days of King Solomon, Israel wasn't divided, right? There was peace in the whole world in the days of Solomon, right? They had alliance with the Phoenicians, right? Israel had an alliance with the Phoenicians. And what would the Phoenicians consist of? You have here Javan, which is the T, Y chromosome. His descendants are who? Dodanim, Elisha, and Kittim in the Mediterranean, right? So who are the sea peoples? Who are the Mediterranean sea peoples? With the exception of Philistines and Captorin and such. Who are the sea peoples? The descendants of Javan, which is Elisha, Dodanim, and Kittim, plus Tarshish, which Tarshish is one of his sons too. But this is all Mediterranean, right? Who else is in the Mediterranean? Well, you have the Captorin, which became the Philistines, which became Canaanites. We know who they are, right? Other than that, who are the Mediterranean sea peoples? They're the descendants of Javan, which are Dodanim, Elisha, and Kittim, and Tarshish, right? So if in the days of King Solomon, if Israel has a truce or alliance, which they did, with the Phoenicians, which are right here, what is that population going to consist of? It's going to consist of these descendants right here, which is the TY chromosome, which is only 3% of the Judaic population, but it's always there. It's always 3% is always there in the Judaic population. Of course, there's the E. Albert Einstein's an E. And of course, there's the other Mediterranean Sea peoples as well, other Mediterranean peoples, which is the R1B, the R1A, as far as Ashkenaz, because they went up the Rhine River and such. But that explains the T Y haplogroup, which is only 3% or 5% in the Jewish population, because of this association that Israel had in the days of King Solomon with the Phoenicians. Of course, they controlled the whole Mediterranean, and they probably went all the way to America, which is another story. Which is the reason for the copper mines in the Americas and the R1B in the area of the copper mines in America. That's the reason for the maternal haplogroup X2A in the area of the copper mines, as well as in Israel to this day. which is the descendants of the wife of Madai, which is the QY chromosome, which is both in America. Well, it's both in Europe. It's both in Europe and America, but the X2A in particular is in the copper mines and in Israel specifically. So that's something to consider there. But, you should be able to see why there is a 3% Y chromosome haplogroup in the Judaic population, considering that in the days of King Solomon, that they had, trade with the Phoenicians, probably going all the way to America, bringing gold, silver, and copper back from America to the temple. Of course, whenever Rome took power, they had to defeat the people, what was remaining of the Phoenicians, which were over here in there's this area. It's not Captain, it's another city. But they had to defeat them, but in so doing, that meant there was nobody that knew the trade to America anymore, because they controlled the sea routes. The Phoenicians controlled the Mediterranean and the sea routes. When Rome beat them, then there was no longer the know-how or the knowledge of traveling to America, because, of course, they probably lost the knowledge themselves, or somebody knew, but since Rome was defeating them, then there was no longer any know-how of how to get to America. But anyway, that's a rabbit trail. But the point being here, I just wanted to show how the reason for the Jewish populations having this Javan Sea People Mediterranean Y chromosome in their population, because of the Phoenicians, who were the sea people, basically the sea people in the Mediterranean, of course, consisting of other people, the E, the R1A, the RB, and even B, I think, and the G. The G would be who? Assyrian. Of course, G is a large population. It's a larger population, and the Jewish population is the G, which is Assyrian. And probably because it could have been one of Abraham's shepherds or something from Assyria, or, which is probably the main reason, or when they were exiled, of course, they went to Assyria and came back and forth, but still, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of the population would be a part of their population, unless they were there from the very beginning as the shepherds of Abraham, or the people that tended the flocks of Abraham were in this area to begin with. Because after Israel became a nation, they were exclusively, to themselves, they had foreign wives, but there were still tribes of Israel, which were descendants of Jacob, which is another thing, I don't know how you can end up with 3% of the descendants of Jacob in the Jewish population. That's just, beyond me how anybody could think that, but, considering that the Phoenicians only have 3%, And the Assyrians have like 15, 20% or something like that, which is the G Y chromosome. Of course, you have larger because of the history. You have the R1A, the R1B as well in the Jewish populations. So, hope that straightens everything out. Did does anybody know that the behemoth wasn't afraid of flash floods in the Jordan River? The Bible says the behemoth, of course, because of its long neck and being aquatic and everything, it wasn't afraid of flash floods in the Jordan River, which were probably more significant back in the day, after the global flood. Probably there were flash floods in the Jordan River, and Behemoth wasn't concerned about that, which is another rabbit hole, another story. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, let me go see who's around. We got David. Hello, David, my brother. David is my brother. In case nobody knows, David is my brother because he's got an Y chromosome. That means that either his family went back to Israel, or they never left. So he's probably better than me, better, because I'm an I1. We were the first ones to take off and go romping around, but he is my brother because we're both descended from the same Danite tribe, in all probability. So we got Cheryl, got Doki. That is a cup of coffee, isn't it? Okay. So that's about it. Maybe I should read what David is saying here. Greetings. British Israelism. There we go. By Queen Elizabeth came from R1B, I think. They got records after the temple destruction. They traced Davidic lineage, R1A, R1B groups. I'm not sure. After you finding J1 got Cohen modal haplogroup. Yeah. Yeah. J1 is definitely Cohen modal haplogroup. And the claim to the throne, believe it or not, is probably because of a certain person called what was his name? Joseph of Arimathea. Now the story is that Joseph of Arimathea, he was the rich man that had sufficient funds to bury Jesus. The reason being is that Joseph of Arimathea had a tin trade in England. So this tin trade was where it tied Joseph of Arimathea and his daughter Anna of Arimathea to Britain. Now there's a song, believe it or not, now this may or may not be true, you don't know, but there is a song that says Jesus stepped foot in England. Now who knows if Jesus, when he was younger, didn't go with Joseph of Arimathea, which is his uncle, which by the way is his uncle, went to England and set foot in England. And to this day, they have a song, or there is a song, about Jesus setting foot in England. Besides that, there is another story of Anna of Arimathea, who settled in England along with Joseph of Arimathea, because there's a lot of confusion in Jerusalem and everything. So Joseph settled in England along with his daughter Anna of Arimathea, and Anna married into the royal line of England, apparently. So I guess there was this guy named Braun or somebody in the royal line that married Anna of Arimathea. So all this fuss about being royalty, about being related to King Solomon, because of course Jesus is a descendant of David, King Solomon, and such, all this fuss is about who is most related to the descendants of Braun and Anna of Arimathea. All that thing about the cup and the whole 9 yards. The Grail, the Holy Grail, all that stuff is because Joseph of Arimathea settled in England, and by the way, he had a, what do we call it? He had basically a seminary. I'll put it in today's vernacular. He opened a seminary in England to teach people about God's word, about the Bible, so much so that there was a thriving Christian community in England going back way, to what, 30, well, maybe 50 or 100 AD in England. There was a thriving Christian community there, so much so that in about the 700s, the Roman Catholic Church goes up there, was opposed, obviously, because of the authority or whatever, because the Roman Church thought they had the authority from who knows, where they obtained the authority from in Rome. So they went and killed hundreds of bishops in England. They destroyed all the records. That's why in England, there's no records. There's no genealogies, no records, because the Roman Church went up there and destroyed all the records, killed 700 some bishops that were of the Christian church that was already there in England. For what it's worth, that's the story that I heard about. And supposedly I'm related to, well, anybody in Europe is related to them, by the way, because once you get connected to a royal line, either in Ireland or England or wherever, the genealogy goes all the way back to the, basically even the pagan kings of Ireland, all that stuff, before Christ. But Anna of Arimathea supposedly married into the royal line by way of Braun, this guy named Braun, who was some kind of royalty. And that's how people derive their authenticity to the throne, going back to King Solomon. And that's why you have all this, talk about the Holy Grail and, all these holy vessels, all that stuff in England, of all places, right? That's the reason. And there is a burial place of Joseph of Arimathea in England as well. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole. Right? So that's the story of the British Israelites. I mean, if you want to know, that's probably the closest you'll get to a British Israelite if you're, of the royal lineage, which everybody is by now. But other than that, the I paternal Y chromosome, which I have and David has, I'm an I1, I think he's an I2. We're descended from the tribe of Dan, of course, which is, of course, descended from Jacob. So we're Israelites, and that's why David is my brother. You know, we're we're brothers, literally. Or cousins or whatever. Anyway, that's a deep rabbit hole. Yeah, I1 M223. Oh, he's I1 M223. Oh, hold on a second. I gotta back up because I got sidetracked. Hold on a second. Okay, I got really sidetracked. J group in Israel are over 6%. J J group, that's more like 49% of Ashkenazi and both Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews. J, J1 or J2 is like 49% of the Jewish population. And he says E1B is a group, got 40%. J, J1, J2 is almost 50%. If you include I, that would be 50% of the Jewish population. See, last three major groups. 2/3 of Jews might not be descended from Israel, but conversion. See, that's the thing, though. That's that's the thing that Dr. Jeanson claims is that there was a lot of mixing going on, but wait a minute, hold on a second. You have Israelites, of course. Majority of Israelites were kicked out of Israel. They went to the land of Assyria, which explains the Y chromosome. We could explain that. But the remaining people in Israel were of the tribe of Judah. So everybody in Israel was of the tribe of Judah. They were descended from Judah. Not only Judah, but they were descended of the house of David and Solomon in Israel. So when the Ashkenazis went to Germany and other Jewish merchants went down the Silk Road all the way to China, or the Sephardic Jews went to Spain or North Africa, they remained as Jews. They were religious. They were religious. They had to keep all these laws. The only thing is that it can't be that mixed up because they had to keep all these laws. Of course, you're allowed to have other people from other places become a Jew too, which is what happened in many cases, all going way back. But for the most part, Jews are descended from Judah. Now, those are Jews. That's why they're called Jews, because they're descended from Judah. And the rest of them, they're also Israelites, but they're all down Silk Road, all Rhine River, all over the Mediterranean, into Italy. As a matter of fact, at least 1/3 of the population of Iran, or Persians, let's say Persians and Turkish and things like that, Anatolia, they're J2, J1 and J2. I mean, because that's where they were expelled to. Remember Josephus? He said, if you go up to the Caspian Sea and beyond Caspian Sea, around in that area, there's Jews that you can't even count. There's Jewish people you can't even count. Well, I mean, you see the result today. the J2, at least 1/3 of the population of Persia and even Turkey is J2. And of course, Italy is, you know, a large population of J2 as well. Anyway, I don't believe the thing about E1. Albert Einstein was E1B or one, but he was Jewish. Obviously, he was Jewish, but his paternal ancestry is probably Egyptian or something, other than Jewish, other than Judaic. Say Hitler was E1B1, yeah. Albert Einstein would never recall E1B is Jewish DNA because Hitler did, yeah. Well, that's kind of ironic that Hitler was an E1B1, you know. Albert Einstein was too, but then again, um, I hate to break the news to you, but Martin Luther was an I1. Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King. Martin Luther, the guy that recommended to put Jews in concentration camps and to steal their businesses and to, break their windows or whatever. That guy is an I1. He's one of us. One of us. Which is if people understood who they were, they might rethink the way they act probably. Anyway, it's a sad part of history. So, in other words, Martin Luther gave the playbook to Hitler as to what to do with the Jewish people. And then after Hitler did everything that Martin Luther recommended that should be done to the Jewish people, then Hitler said, well, what do I do now? And he came up with the final solution. So it's a sad history, but we're all involved in it. We all have part in it. Anyway, G is Jewish, Jews of Georgia, Iran, Armenia. Well, but the thing is that Iran, Armenia, Azerbaijan, that's all Assyria. That's all Assyrian. See, G-H-I, Jewish Semitic, right? G-H-I-J, well, not K, but G-H-I and J is Semitic, yes. Okay. I am 223. I am 223. I think it's I2. I don't know. Yeah, I2. Jamie Russell. Sorry I didn't see you. Christian Middle Earth. I don't know what that Middle Earth is about. I don't know. You gotta explain that Middle Earth. Jamie, welcome and God bless you. So, hello. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of discussion going on. This is my position, and I'm explaining why I think, why I believe what I'm suggesting, and why I believe that what Dr. Jeanson is trying to suggest is totally off the wall. Anyway, but because Dr. Jeanson is trying to say the G and the H, which is Assyrian and Elamite, he's trying to say that's Hamitic. But the whole area is Semitic. And you can't swap the Semitic area with all of Eurasia and say, all of Eurasia, those are the Semites. Look, please, come on. Hey, all, Iron Man. So that's about it. I think I'm pretty much finished with my presentation, pretty much. I think I made my point, my case, as well as I could, but that's about it. So, Azerbaijan, yeah, G, H, I, and J is definitely Semitic, yes. Of course, H is the Gypsies, Elamite Gypsies that also claim to be Judaic. They claim to be Judaic, and the second largest Y haplogroup in their population is J2. The the gypsies in Europe, you know, a good percent, the second largest percentage of their population is J2, and they claim to be Jewish. Man, come on. So I'll rewatch. Come in late. Okay. All right. God bless everybody. Take care. And I guess I'll be out, like SFT says. God bless everybody. Take care.